Battleline podcast. And if you are viewing us for the first time, yes, we are on YouTube now. I mean, it's still the majority of the listeners are listening, but if you are listening, sign over to YouTube, go to Battleline podcast, and thanks to D from the Team House helping us out, we are now doing video, and I think both of our setups look pretty cool. I mean, like, finally, we have something that looks a little presentable here.
And I'll get some more stuff up there. And for all you guys, I know that we're going to have some people out there. Hey, your flag's back. No, it's just reversed on the camera, guys. My flag is in the correct stars and stripes as you read it, as you would.
I actually don't see it in the frame, but maybe.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, if we twist it this way, it looks backwards, but it's not, guys. It's hanging the right way. It's just the camera reverses, flips it. So.
Oh, anyway. Yeah, but I think it's just on your end because it's weird. Because if I look at the Battleline podcast, it's in the right way. But it's not. But I think it revert. Yeah. So cool. Yeah, no, we're good. It won't be reversed like that, I don't think. But hey, I'm not gonna lie. I think my hair looks better than yours because I got Tonto's pomade going on. Tonto's hair paste.
What are you talking about? I got Tonto pomade in my hair. That stuff rocks. It works awesome, and it smells great, man. And that little, people think that it's that little jar from the Outer Range guys, like, oh, it's not going to last, but it lasts me over a month because you don't need that much of it. I don't know if
same. And this isn't even a read for them. I just genuinely love the product. I mean, hopefully they sponsor more shows, but I really do. But this is an actual sponsorship before we get into the show. And that's, of course, our friends who have been with us since the very beginning, Fort Scott Munitions. Fort Scott is a manufacturer of multi-federal patented solid copper and brass CNC spun ammunition that is designed to tumble upon impact in soft tissue, leaving devastating wound channels for faster bleed out and quicker incapacitation. Mm-hmm. This ammunition was originally developed to innovate and improve on the standard of military-grade ammunition design. It was found that not only did the TUI ammunition outperform competitors in the self-defense industry, but it quickly became apparent that it would be a top contender for hunters alike. With the ammunition being CNC spun, the tolerances are some of the tightest on the market, ensuring that you receive the same results with each pull of the trigger. Now, if you want to check them out, you just go to the dealer locator on fortscottmunitions.com, and you'll find something in every state. But we're keeping this like it's live, and Chris. Yeah, all right. So, I think something's going on there with Chris. But yeah, in every state, you're gonna find a dealer locator by you. Oh, you're that's what you're doing. All right. Yeah. I think you're like taking a piss or something.
Now that we have video, you can actually see this. Here it is, right here, guys. Good stuff. Really good, great ammunition. And fantastic home defense stuff as well. But keep going, brother. Since we have the video,
no, it's perfect, man. That makes sense. I didn't know what you were doing. If you had that, it makes sense that you have it that nearby, though. I don't think of that.
That's a lot of. Anyway, you see my body armor over here from Gladiator Solutions, and then I've got a little gun behind me as well, little personal defense weapon or a PDX, and I mean I just went shooting. So why not have the stuff right near me? Because this is where my little office is. So that's part of work. Shooting's part of work for me. So let's keep it in the office.
Yeah. So I assume that means, if someone breaks in, they're getting shot with Fort Scott munitions.
Yeah, they're getting shot. That's home defense, and that's why it's used. They're going to get shot with Fort Scott munitions, and that stuff. It does tumble, and it will leave a hole in you, or at least coming out of you, pretty dang big. So just leave my house alone. Leave me alone. Don't worry. Don't bother me. I won't bother you. And let's just leave it at that. Leave my family alone as well.
I love it. Yeah. So as I was saying there, though, guys, the dealer locator on the website, you're going to find dealers in every single state. You put your zip code in there. You put your state in there. Even some of the gun unfriendly states, you're going to find Fort Scott. Okay. So fortscottmunitions.com. Use the exclusive promo code Battleline for 15% off your order. Only available to listeners of the Battleline podcast. Fort Scott Munitions is a proud supporter of Chris Peranto, Battleline Tactical, and the Battleline podcast. With that, let's get right into everything.
From Omaha, Nebraska to New York City, From planet Earth to extraterrestrial life in space, a podcast with no equal, engaged in unconventional warfare through your speakers and headphones. This is a show about embracing the suck, conquering your demons, and finding God in the face of adversity. Chris Tonto Peranto.
Switch is on. Motherfucker, I'm going to shoot you in the face.
Ian Scotto.
You know, Ian and I have been dating for a long time.
You are now tuned into the Battleline podcast.
The switch is on, and for those of you viewing, I want to know, how do you like the new intro? I love the new intro.
And who's sexier? It's me. Who's sexier? Come on, man. Ian is sexier, of course.
There's more video footage of you, so there's not really any video footage of me. And the video footage is awesome. So shout out to everybody who captured that stuff.
Yeah, no, great. It was part of it, I think, was from Heath Smith over at Ford Leather. And I don't know who captured the other video stuff, but I think the majority of it, Michael Billings, who's a Battleline instructor, tremendous firearms instructor, and he'll be at the Copper Ticket course. You'll get to run courses with him. He's so motivated. It reminds me of when I was 30 and actually had a lot of energy, because that's what Mike is. But guys, they whoever did that, I know Heath did part of it over there at Ford Leather, does a tremendous job. And then Jeremy,
I thought it was forged leather, isn't it? FORD?
No, it's like it's FJORD, like Fjord.
I thought it was FORJD.
You know what? You might be right. Help us out, man.
I think it makes sense. It's like forged in the leather. It's like embossed. That's how I thought of it.
That's why he's the brains of the operation.
I could be wrong. I don't know the people, but when I saw it looked like forged to me.
You're probably right, man. I always thought it was like the Valhalla thing, like but a fjord. Never mind. I'm an idiot.
I could be wrong. That's what I thought, though.
I don't think you're wrong. We'll look it up later. Or Heath watches the show or listens to the show. He'll text us.
We are kind of infamous for getting things wrong with the names, because we did say Thadia wrong for years. So.
Tadia, and then it's back to Thadia. But Ford Leather makes tremendous stuff too. Geez, we're just doing all sorts of promotions all over the place, just willy nilly, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess so. But with that, I do want to get into your Hawaii trip, because that's interesting. But actually, the first thing I want to say real quick, just to say it as a baseball fan, Mets first place, absolutely killing it. I saw yesterday Jim Brewer, who follows us. I want to get him on the show, and he doesn't follow like thousands of people. He follows like a couple hundred people, and one of them is Battleline Podcast. So I guess he's a listener. I want to get him on, but
love to get him on.
I would love to get him on, man.
Well, he's old school comic. They don't make him like that anymore. I mean, a lot of, like we God bless Gilbert Godfrey and Louis Anderson. But that's the Jim Brewer maybe came a little bit after, but he's still part of that genre when comedians were funny.
There's still plenty of funny comedians, but I love Brewer. But yeah, he went in a whole rant about all these Mets players getting hit in the head with balls, and he's just like, do these pitchers from the Nationals and St. Louis, do they just suck, or is it that you can't beat us, so you're just hitting all our players in the head? But I have to say, man, as a fan, in the offseason, I was wondering why the Mets were getting all these players, these pitchers who were like 37 years old. It was like all these pitchers who were older than I am. I figured they'd all be past their prime, and sure enough, they've actually been great. We've been in first place, so I don't know. It's just cool to see if there's any Mets fans out there, and I'm sure there are.
And he's saying that, guys, because I'm a Yankees fan. So
that's not why.
Come on, a little bit. But hey, Yankees, sometimes they start slow. And I don't think they have. I don't know who they have besides Aaron Judge, and there's a couple other guys. But again, it's not. They don't have they haven't built themselves up like in the good old days, like in the 90s and 2000s with the Jeters and Bernie Williams and Paul O'Neill's and they'll get back up there. But that's what I love about baseball. It really is. It's just the ebb and flow and their minor league teams. Do you ever have a chance to go to a minor league game, guys? Go do it. That is still true baseball. It's so fun. And the small stadiums they have now, but they make them like the Field of Dreams type stadiums. And it's just, I love going to minor league baseball games. I like going to big games just because it's easier to get into, but they still have everything that you would want at a major league game. And it's just smaller venues, and it just feels like Americana. It's awesome. Awesome.
It's funny you mentioned that because last year I went to a Long Island Ducks game for the first time.
Yeah.
And look, he's long past being on the team, but I thought it was so funny that at one time John Rocker was pitching for the Long Island Ducks because the guy went off on like his hatred of New York and like and like immigrants and gay people, and then he's living in Long Island pitching. You know, and Long Island's a different place than New York City for sure. But it was just funny because I mean the guy was like the most hated baseball player in New York after that rant, and then he pitches for a minor league Long Island team.
Karma's a motherfucker, isn't it? Karma just gets you every time. I remember that Rocker, because was he pitching when he did that rant? Was he pitching for the Red Sox?
For the Braves.
For the Braves when he did that rant, but that was during the Braves Yankees heyday though, when they played in the World Series. Yeah, I remember because I said watching the World Series. I think I was in grad school at the time, living in $100 a month apartment or room in a house.
That doesn't exist anymore.
I know, in downtown Omaha, Nebraska, and that was like my one positive thing in my life at that time. That was when I got kicked out of the Army the first time. And
96 Yankees.
Yeah, it was during that time frame, and I was at grad school, and I remember all that, and it was some fun for me because I could get enjoyment watching the Yankees and the Braves play, and Rocker was like the bad guy, some guy to hate. And hate's a strong word. I think we use it too freely, but some guy to really dislike on the other team, so you could cheer for your team even more. So when they actually won, it was fun. That was a good time in life. Simple time. Just paying $100 rent, drinking a 40 ounce or getting a Mickey's Big Mouth, for $2 at the local store. Didn't have any air conditioning, so all the windows are open in the house because we have no air conditioning in this little apartment that I'm living in, and watching the Yankees play and cheering them. That was fun times, man. That was a good, simple time in life. I love that time. And that's when I met my second wife too. That's when I was dating Tanya, which ended up working out very well as well.
Yeah. Listen back to the show with Tanya Peranto, if one of our earliest episodes, who, by the way, I've wanted to have back on the show, but she wants no part in it.
She hates
likes
it
when she comes on, though. I mean, I thought it was a good interview. We got into, we could have gotten more into volleyball, but we got into kind of like how you guys met. It was a good show.
Nah, she just hates. She doesn't have any social media. She hates all that stuff, which I think is quite refreshing in this day and age. When and my wife is a very pretty lady. When a very pretty lady does not want anything on social media, I think that's one of the things I'm attracted to be honest. It's like, she doesn't need all that crap to make herself feel good. She feels good about herself regardless what other people say. But we'll get her back on, and I'll keep putting the pressure. I'll just keep nudging it a little bit.
Yeah, it's been, probably like over 2 years.
It's been
it's been a very long time. With that though, I did say I wanted to get into the Hawaii trip because I can say for me, man, I've been plenty of places in the U.S., even though, the continental U.S., and I've been outside the U.S., never been to Hawaii. My friend Will Glass, Intrinsic rapper, now lives in Hawaii. He totally lives that Hawaii lifestyle. He's now completely raw food vegan. Loves it there. Moved from Scottsdale, Arizona to there. Wow. I've heard great things, but yeah, I'd love to hear the whole experience.
No, we went out there, had a speaking event for Cal SMACNA. They're the California Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning contractors in the whole entire state of California. Big organization, but tremendous group of people. They're wonderful. Treated me so well. It was amazing time out there. But just getting to go to the island, and I went running both days. I ran 7 miles both days on these trails back. And if you ever been to Lahui or been to the island of Kauai, that's where they filmed the first Jurassic Park, and it does feel like you're in.
I saw you take pictures.
Yeah, it does feel like you're in the prehistoric times, but it was awesome. Just running trails, and there's cliff diving out there, and a lot of the scenes that you have in movies where you see the Hollywood people jump off the cliffs in the Hawaiian movies, that was filmed right there as well on that island where we were staying. So it was cool. It's just like a bucket list thing. As a runner, and a lot of you runners out there, I know there's a lot to listen to the show. You guys can attest to this. There's a bucket list of places you want to run. That's one of them. Also, running the hill, running Hyde Street or Hyde Hill in San Francisco, or Lombard Street's another one, which I got to do a few months ago as well in San Francisco, or running the Rocky Mountain, the trails outside of Glenwood Springs up to Hanging Lake. That's another one. We run by Doc Holliday's grave. I've got to run those when I was in Colorado. it just was another bucket list thing that's just an amazing beauty that this country and the world has. It was just awesome. It was awesome.
And by the way, it's funny to say because you're right when you say like this country, but it's almost not the country because it's an island, you know, just like Alaska. How I mean, you got to go overseas to go. Yeah.
And it's still, though, when you get in, you don't feel like because you're not, maybe that's because you're not going through passport control or customs or all that. There's a little bit because they want to make sure you don't bring any plants or invasive species into the state.
But I thought when you were saying plants, you're talking a little people watching the video, a little joint emotion.
I don't know. Is it legal out there now or not? I don't know if it is or not.
I feel like it's legal most places, but I would think going on a plane because a lot of people get busted for bringing weed back from Hawaii and that type of thing.
I don't do that, guys, anymore. I've smoked.
You just do CBD.
Just CBD. I did do a little weed back in the college days and little steroids there and went to college days back in the old days. But it still felt like you're coming into America. But the flight's miserable. And I sat up front and I kind of have to now really get anxious when I fly. I don't like to fly. I've never liked to fly ever. But even sitting up front, it's just a long flight. But overall, great trip. I did get bit by something on the trails and my leg is killing me. I've got like little welts over my leg. So there are prehistoric bugs out there that you can't see that bite the living hell out you.
Yeah, you were saying that before we taped. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think for you, by the way, when you talk about the flight time, I mean, I would think for me it's a long flight time, but you're a guy who's been to Libya, you've been to Afghanistan, like that. I mean, I would think for you it's a breeze.
I think it's still easy to do. I still don't like it though. I shouldn't say it's not that I can't do it. It's just I don't enjoy it. And I'm at a time in my life where I'm not excited to be gone from home anymore. So that adds a little bit of stress. But also, on those flights that we would take up until we started having flight commercial, when we had a private agency plane, that was a little different because you're flying. It's like me and you flying together and we can do whatever we want on the plane because there's really no rules on the plane because it's a private one. The time flies because, you and I can chat for a couple hours where you're on the plane.
By the way, when you say do whatever we want on the plane, people could
insinuate something. No.
I was thinking people are like, are they getting gay on the plane?
No. It's just, you can get up and move around. Don't worry about your seat belts and all that.
This is where my mind goes.
Yeah, no. Have your cell phone on if you want to when you're taking off.
True.
But that was when we used to fly what we call the J-Lo birds because we had a plane. The very first private plane we had within the agency was a plane that was Jennifer Lopez's plane that the agency had bought, but they hadn't reconfigured it. So it still had the couches and chairs leaning back. So most of the time it's actually sucked because when you were flying back and you had a bunch of CIA and State Department, sometimes we had a State Department person on there, it would fill the plane up. So there was no place to sit because only a few people could sit on a couch or some chairs in the back. So I remember ended up just laying on the floor, but that was the best bathroom I'd ever seen on a plane. I'd just go sit in the bathroom forever on the cushy heated seats and just pretend I was taking a big dump for a half hour just so I could get away from everybody and relax. But when they did finally buy an actual plane and retrofitted it, I think it was a 737 with first class seats through the whole thing. That was nice. And it was comfortable. But you're also the excitement of going into a combat zone does help pass the time quite a bit. We're just flying on a plane just to fly to Hawaii. Man, that's 7 hours. I know from Denver to Hawaii, it was like 7 hours, almost 8 hours. And that did get long. And then I flew back.
Yeah, that's longer than I realized.
Well, from Denver, it is. Then I flew back to Phoenix on the way back home, and that was 5.5 hours. That wasn't too bad. But yeah, once you get over 5 hours, I don't care who you are, whether you're a professional flyer or not, it just gets long, man, because you can only sleep for so long on a plane. At least me, I can't sleep very well on a plane because I don't like flying. I don't want to say I have a fear of flying, but I do get anxious when I fly. It doesn't matter how much I've done it. In fact, I get more anxious now because I recognize sounds where you're oblivious to the sounds. Ignorance truly is bliss. But when you're ignorant to all the flight sounds and what the noises the plane makes, and then you fly so much that you start to know what all those sounds are, and then you hear something out of the ordinary, you're like, oh shit, what was that? Did we just lose half the wing? And you're looking, and it's of course not, because they do a good job. All airline pilots are extremely, in my opinion, extremely professional, take their job seriously. Of course they do, but it's still, it still sucks when you're going through a heavy turbulence and you're like, God, it's just end, please. And you're praying to the good Lord upstairs saying, please just let this turbulence end. I don't want to fly this for 3 hours. I did one time from New Jersey, actually. That was flying back home.
Would find that, I'm sorry, just gonna say, I think
No,
people
no,
would find that funny because like you're a guy who's been under fire, and I think most people, a lot of people with turbulence, they're like, whatever, it's like a minor inconvenience. It's just funny that for you, that scares you more than something that would scare the shit out of the average person.
I think it's because you don't have any control over it. At least if I'm getting shot at, I can shoot back, or I can move and run and get away from it or go towards it. When you're on a plane, you're just stuck. You're like, whatever. And I think that's with a lot of guys. I think that's where you get post-traumatic stress too. I think a lot of that where it comes from is because you don't have the control over your life situations that you did when you were overseas, or when you're in a fight or in your combat, And so when that anxiousness or that adrenaline pops up, it's got nowhere to go. So it just goes inside you, and then it just keeps building and building and building. And you have to find a way how to release it. And when you're sitting on a plane, or when you're out at a bar, or some guys drink and some guys fight, some guys just go home and let it build up, and then it just really hurts them. And me on a plane, it just builds up, and I just have to, like I do anything else, to calm down, take a breath, focus on something else, have a good movie on so I can watch it, and just like hurry up and get through it. Because turbulence, as you all know, is part of flying. You can't get away from it. It's just how it is. But it does, and it does come down to a lack of control, which I think, again, post-traumatic stress, guys, men and women. For all you people that are new to us, guys is a gender neutral term on the Battleline podcast. When I say guys, it means men and women. But guys that suffer from post-traumatic stress, a lot of that has to do with not having control of a situation, whereas you had control. You did. Even when you're getting shot at, you still had control of the situation, at least what you could do about that situation. Where when you get back home, a lot of that control is left to others out there, because you don't have the control. You can't shoot back, and you can't kill turbulence. It doesn't work that way. And you guys know where I'm going there. I'm going down in a circle.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah, lack of control for sure. But it's good to hear that it was great. I think that's on my bucket list for one day to do. Hawaii.
And no masks. We forgot.
No masks on the plane.
No masks was tremendous. No masks. Nothing in Hawaii at the airport. It was so nice to see people smile again. You could just tell people were a lot less stressed in the airport than when you were wearing masks. That was wonderful. It was just that actually made the trip, was just seeing people kind of happy at the airport again, for the most part.
Yeah.
Unless you're delayed, but it was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome.
No, that makes sense, because that's the I haven't been back to the airport since January. So
Wow.
that changed pretty recently when I was in Los Angeles for New Year's Eve. But yeah, the big news, actually, for people who listened last week when I had Tom and Deneen on, we were talking about the speculation about Elon Musk buying Twitter. And then sure enough, as we know, in the past week, Elon Musk has officially bought Twitter. So that, I think that's been the biggest news that's really dominated the news cycle this past week. And I think as Tom Borelli said on the show, and I agree, I think it's going to be a real game changer.
It's great. It's capitalism at its finest. It's what's supposed to happen, and I do believe there was a monopoly on social media with the left, and whatever, guys. It is what it is. They had control of it. They were able to dictate how media was pushed out. And in all fairness, there should be a difference in media relationships as far as whether you're right or left, because I believe just like a battery, and you have the plus and the minuses, it cancels each other out. There's got to be somewhere where not just one group is in massive control of what gets put out there. And I've seen that in the Middle East. That's what the Middle East, that's when you have dictators. That's when propaganda gets put out there. And I think a lot of us, and I'm glad a lot of us in America have common sense. And I believe a lot of them, we're seeing that. Doesn't matter which party you were with, or you're an independent, make no difference at all. You're just seeing, hey, we're starting to get a lot of bullshit put out there. And it's due to politicians. It is due to politicians wanting control of and wanting to remain in control, or the party to remain in control. And I do believe, Elon Musk buying that will even the playing field, which it should be. It should always be in media. It should have both sides everywhere. But on the social media side of the house, it wasn't like that. But until hopefully fingers crossed until now. And I think that's a great thing. That's a great thing for America. That's a great thing for all social media outlets out there. And it's a great thing for podcasts, of course. And I don't see it a negative, but
Yeah.
It's early. So who knows, man? Who knows?
No, I think it's all positive. And yeah, I do see with podcasts, yeah, for sure. Reach getting squashed, even for podcasts like ours that aren't overtly political or anything like that. It's happened to us. But I've just been a big fan of Elon Musk for many years now, because I think Elon Musk is really doing a lot too. And I don't want to like overhype it, because if I say it in this way, it's going to sound like some type of worship of the man, which, I'm not. But to save humanity in some sense in what he's doing with Tesla, because I just think about, for all my life and probably most of your life, we've heard about we need to get off fossil fuels. We need to get off foreign oil. And I don't think the government has really done much. They've actually done a lot more harm. They propped up a lot of companies like Solyndra, as we know, that failed. And that was taxpayer money. And someone like Elon Musk was the first one out there who innovated the technology, keeps all of his patents open source so other people could use it, because he says, hey, I want this technology to thrive. And the fact is, the only way I think to get people on electric cars, to get off of fossil fuels, is to have like an electric car that people actually consider cool. He didn't need the government to really fund that. He was just able to make a car that people get in, like Dylan, who we work with, has a Tesla. And I'm like, this is a cool car. So I think without the government getting involved, you're able to incentivize people just by putting out a good product and putting out something innovative. And of course, I know there's problems with lithium as well. I know that fossil fuels are, there's problems, because you've spoken about it before. There's problems with all of it, with how we harvest all of this stuff. But there does have to be some balance for sure. I don't think we should be completely reliant on fossil fuels, because it puts us in the position that we're in now, where prices get jacked up, where we're relying on countries that we really shouldn't be, like Saudi Arabia, of course. So I think Elon Musk has done more for clean energy than the government ever has.
And the innovativeness, like you said, it instills, at least I think, in the younger generation too, to continue to study, continue to work hard, and continue to have ideas, and continue to try to make them work. And if they don't work, then fix them in something else. It's a true story of success and I'm sure Elon Musk has failed several times through his life, and just learned from it, and he kept going on. He kept building, and he kept working and being successful finally in what he wanted to be successful in. And what you said there with the open source stuff, that to me says volumes, or speaks volumes, because he's not trying to hide what he's doing just for the ends of make money. He's like, hey, I want all people to know this. I want people to get to have access to this. So if they want to do the same thing, they can. That's leadership, brother. I 101. And I don't know. I don't follow him as much as some people do, but just the little things that I have seen, and being someone that does go and speak on leadership quite often to big corporations, that's one of the things that I see a leader, I see as an attribute, is the ability to share and not try to hoard all your ideas because you want to be the only one that has this and knows this. Because if somebody else gets it, they may do something bigger and better than me. Well, isn't that what you want? You want it to continue to improve. I'm not going to buy anything electric right now as far as a truck goes, because I don't think it's right yet. I think it's at that point yet. Will I down the road, if somebody other than Elon Musk takes his ideas and makes a really good electric truck? Maybe.
Yeah,
but it's got to be taken that next level. I think that's
I agree, and it shouldn't be forced by the government's hand, right?
Never,
it's just like
never.
Technology is going to continue to innovate with or without government, right? And I think there's going to be more and more geniuses in this field, like Elon Musk, who know how to do things. And the price does have to be brought down for sure. I mean, I know right now I have a Jeep that's leased, and once I'm able to buy it back, it just makes sense for me to keep going with my Jeep. I'm very happy with it, but I think for the first time, electric cars are not this like shitty little vehicle that you're like, I would never want to drive this. The Tesla is the first thing that you see on the road, and you're like, this is pretty cool. So,
and they are making, Chevy has brought out a Silverado. I have a Chevy Suburban. Chevy makes great cars, American car. They're fantastic. I think the issue right now more than anything is not just the car itself, but the ability to, because where I live in Kansas, there's no electric charging stations where I live in my itty bitty town. That's a huge deal too. being able
Yeah,
to
if you haven't, because my mom just bought a hybrid, right? And a hybrid SUV. And I mean, if you have it in your garage, I mean, I don't think she really goes to many of those charging stations. I think she just charges it in the garage, and gas lasts you
That's cool.
for like a month. You know, just you fill up the vehicle and you're going and going. And my mom's in the car all the time, and she's a real estate agent. She's out showing houses. So yeah, but the other piece of news I wanted to get to that's definitely underreported that I saw that you and I were going back and forth about just texting, because and for the listeners, you know, we don't just like shoot from the hip on this show. I mean, we try to our prep is really us just like texting each other what we're seeing, and you know, trying to like read up on this type of stuff. But yeah, this was definitely underreported, and actually if it wasn't for Twitter, I wouldn't even know about this article because it got kind of buried. I mean, I was trying to find other headlines about it, and this was like buried at the bottom of something on Real Clear Politics. Yeah, oh no, Politico. Politico. It was, you know, buried at the bottom of that, but it was all over Twitter, and that's where I tend to get a lot of news. So DHS is standing up a new disinformation governance board to coordinate countering misinformation related to Homeland Security, focused specifically on irregular migration in Russia. Nina Jankowicz will head the board as executive director. She previously was a disinformation fellow at the Wilson Center, advised the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry as part of the Fulbright Public Policy Fellowship, and oversaw Russia and Belarus programs at the National Democratic Institute. And then it says hat tip to Daniel Lippman for that. But I think you and I had the same reaction that just when I hear DHS Disinformation Governance Board, it sounds very North Korea-esque, because I do think I think disinformation is a problem, but this is not the way that you fight that.
No, and to have this is a board that's supposed to instill ethics back into the way we get information, back into the media, back into social media, back in the news, and the government's going to run it. Our government, which is probably one of the most unethical, lack of integrity organization out there. Holy crap. Are you kidding me? And is it a shock that they're putting that out as Elon Musk gets Twitter? Are you kidding? So they can control the flow of information. You know, all you veterans out there that have served in the Middle East or served in North Africa, that have served in countries with dictators or with terrorists that run the country, you know what this is. This is the ability to control and put out propaganda. And now it's by our government agency. It's the same thing a dictator would do. What did I shot you that meme of this is Kim Jong-il approved. Yeah, this sort of thing.
Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un approved. Well, that's because that's what this is. The government does not need to be doing any of this, and putting the government's board, putting in a disinformation governance board by our own government that puts out more disinformation, utilizing the mainstream media. That's the most hypocritical thing. It's laughable. It's ludicrous. It really is. And it's extremely hypocritical. And I think a lot of Americans, just like myself and like you, can look at it right now because we've been disinformed quite often enough by our own government and the mainstream media that we look at it and just have the same feeling that both of us do. It's like, are you kidding me? You guys are going to say what's going to be out there? No, you're going to say what you want people to hear so your own political party can stay in power. And if it was a Republican-led government that was doing the same thing right now, or a Republican-led White House, I would be saying the same thing. It's like, no, stay out of it. You don't need to have anything to do with it. Politicians are not ethical. My own experience with politicians, the media has ethical people, but overall is not ethical. It's not have integrity on either side of the house. Ian, Ian and I talk about that quite often as well. Stay out of it. They're the disinformation board. That's ridiculous. And yeah, I just don't think it's a coincidence that it came about after Elon Musk bought Twitter and the whole left freaked out. Hey, what it is.
I don't know, because of the fact that I will say Elon Musk just bought Twitter. I think it would probably take a few months at least to put this into effect. I don't think they just created a position overnight, if I had to guess.
Well, I think they've been watching this like everybody else. They're watching, and you do have contingencies. If this happens, then this is the route we're going to go. And that's how the military works. That is how the government works, at least on that aspect, is they normally don't shoot from the hip in most cases. But sometimes even all their contingencies are completely way off. Like Benghazi is a perfect example. The contingency, what should we say? Well, they had multiple contingencies and they picked one that was Ridiculous. Well, here's disinformation right there.
And that's the thing. Yeah, that's a great example because they would say that your story of someone who's actually there was disinformation. But you know what? I guess be fair on this issue, and we were both texting about it. I do think there is a major problem with both Russian disinformation out there and Chinese disinformation, and you have to counter those. And they do it brilliantly, truthfully. I mean, China with TikTok. TikTok is Chinese disinformation. They control the algorithm. The Communist Party of China controls what you see on there, and it's an app that is basically people dancing, is masquerading as like the fun part of being on it, but the app is 100% designed to put out Chinese propaganda. And then Russia, on the other hand, with RT, they've done a brilliant job of basically pitting Americans against each other. If you listen to our episode way back with I hate having to say his code name, but Coriolanus. I want to say his real name, but he just doesn't put it out there. But he spoke about we spoke about it at the time. Russia buying ads for Trump, Russia buying Facebook ads for even Black Lives Matter, and as Coriolanus said, were they doing it because they really support these causes? No, it was to create hostility. And they're sitting back and watching all of this. So I do think America has to counter that in some way, but you don't counter it by kind of doing the same thing. Actually, I would say Russia is a lot more. They're good at kind of like RT. They're good at making it look like a genuine news source. They bring tons of American guests on there. People we've been on the show.
Hey guys, full disclosure, I've been on the show before. I've been on twice now. They said exactly what I said, and it wasn't spun, it wasn't changed, and I made sure of that. And then I stopped going on all media. It was right at that time frame. Yeah,
but I mean, they're very good at making RT look like a real news source. And RT is just the Putin wing of it's just whatever Putin wants out there.
But I do see Americans. We do when we're individuals, when we're by ourselves. We have a lot of common sense. It's when we get in large groups that we lose our freaking mind. I don't see RT as prevalent as maybe you have in the Midwest. It's not out here. We don't.
No, but that's the thing. I don't think people are watching it, but people are sharing articles. I mean, you've seen, as I was texting you, right? You've probably seen, because they're everywhere, the photos and videos of Ukrainian soldiers tying Russians to posts, or the amount of Nazis who are in the Ukrainian military, right? Wow. And they're saying, oh, they're fighting Nazis over there. We're denazifying Ukraine. Yeah, this is the same as that you could have an incident of some white supremacist who's in the U.S. Army and say the U.S. Army is all white supremacists. They're not necessarily watching RT. They're getting RT talking points from other sources. Tucker Carlson has repeated a lot of RT talking points.
I think our own media divides us enough that we don't need RT doing it. And
but that's the point. They've made it worse.
Well, that's the thing. I see the common sense, just like yourself, with people. War is hell, and wars. This is, hey guys, whether it's Russia or Ukraine, the reason you have wars is both people think they're right. That's why. All right. So this is what you're seeing. One side is thinking they're right, and here they're giving the reasons. And we're going to see the Ukrainian side. They think they're right. And this is given the reasons. War's hell, brother. War's hell. And to say that Ukrainian soldiers aren't doing atrocities to Russian soldiers would be for horseshit. They are. They're doing, not all of it, but you lose your mind.
But I'm saying it's being these isolated incidents are being utilized to spin a narrative that Russia are the good guys, and Russia are not the good guys.
Well, but I know, but neither is Ukraine. And are they innocent to all this? Ukraine's one of the, guys, that's why I say we don't need to be involved in this. This is the regional war. These guys have it out. I don't think Russia. You think I like Russia? You guys know better than that.
Yeah.
I just don't. I'm trying, because you have to stay in the middle of a road with this. For me, I believe you do. Because both sides, yes, Ukraine was invaded. Could they have been avoided? Probably. But now they're fighting, and the longer it goes out, you're going to see more atrocities by both sides, because they've had it, and we're humans. We see our friend killed. If you're a Ukrainian soldier and you see me, let's give an example. Me and you are Ukrainians. We're out there fighting. You die. I'm holding you in my arms when you die. Do you not think I'm not going to turn into a freaking bloodlust and I'm going to cut everybody's dick off Russian shoulder? That I'm going to, and it might get caught on camera. And now I am this terrible, terrible person because I don't take prisoners anymore. But you got to remember what goes on in somebody's head. And that's where, that's where I see that we're going to have more opportunities from both sides to point out atrocities when both sides are at fault for those atrocities. And I think that's why you see Dutch, you see Maddie, Sergeant Waters, myself. Who else do we have on? Justin, Navy SEAL, say, hey, we don't need to be a part of any of this.
And we all agree. Yeah. But I also want to make it clear, Putin is, a war criminal. I do agree. Yeah. That doesn't mean that we're definitely we're being sold by, I think, the establishment to get into a war. But I have no problem with the amount of people who have gone over from here, who have volunteered with the Ukrainian forces because they strongly believe in it. Just like the same way we have people who have, former Marines. I know, I'm sure way more people, who went to volunteer with the Peshmerga. I personally do agree with those people who are over there doing that. But my point is, because we're getting a little off topic from it, but my point is, like, I don't think RT's propaganda is so prevalent that it's people turning on the TV and watching RT. It's people sharing articles. And once you look into where's this source from, source from, it all goes back to Putin, and Putin all goes back to RT. That's his wing of the media.
And that's what Russia and China, that's what we do. We do the same thing.
I don't want to say we're on the same level, though. I really don't. I don't think you could really compare what we do to RT. RT is very slick with what they do.
I think we do push out. It's unconventional warfare. It's to change hearts and minds, and that's how to destroy the morale of the people or to uplift the morale of the people. If you're on that side, that's war, but that's unconventional warfare. That's UW. You learn that. There's a whole book on that. If you want a whole training manual or field manual on that, if you want to look it up from the special forces teams, UW, unconventional warfare, hearts and minds. Would I say, do we have an RT? I don't watch the news enough to
we don't. I mean, I do agree there's a ton of propaganda on the news, but we don't have like a Biden news network, which is what RT is.
And God bless we don't. I'm glad we don't have one of those.
And then also, guys, I'll point out one more thing, because I'm going to mention like the Top Gun movie, for example. And I really want to get someone on for the Top Gun movie, but I'm thinking of this as an example, right? We talked about it with Alex Hollings. Tom Cruise, right, in the new Top Gun movie. There's a reason he doesn't have a Taiwan patch on his jacket anymore. China's able to say to us, we're not going to distribute your film if you put anything that's pro-Taiwan. So, I mean, they're just very good at propaganda. They're very good at it, and I think they're very good at solely getting their message out there. And I don't think you can compare the two when China, for example, is, they don't have Twitter, they don't have social media, they don't have ways to get these other voices out there. And then in terms of Russia is not even hearing the Ukrainian perspective on what's going on. Russia literally believes that they are denazifying Ukraine, and that's just not true.
Well, like I said, wars are started because both sides think they're right. That's why wars
for sure. But I just don't think you can compare U.S. propaganda, which is prevalent, to Russia or Chinese propaganda. And that's my take.
We use our propaganda against ourselves to do. It's a full circle, and it's just where we come back to, I say, common sense. Americans as an individual have common sense. It's when we get into our groups that we lose our fucking minds and we lose all common sense. So on Ian's point of RT or the Russian propaganda or Chinese, which are out there. I mean, look at Disney. Holy shit. The Simpsons, they've changed episode because the Chinese were unhappy.
Yes.
Do you see how many, and some of them, not taking any away from the movies that come up, but have you seen a lot of the new movies that are coming out on Disney? They're Chinese, turning red Chinese. You've got, Shang-Chi, Chinese, all showing the good side, the values of China. And do you think that's a coincidence? No, that's the propaganda. It's a hearts and minds, same thing. And hey, my son loves red. He loves watching. He's 6 years old. He loves it. I don't think he's getting, whatever. We'll get into that later. I don't need to get into that now. But what I'm saying is that there always will be propaganda out there. We have to use our common sense. And we use propaganda against our enemies. Part of that, going into internet cafes and putting shit in computers. So when a local pulls it up, we can track them, first of all, if we're trying to find somebody, but also there's propaganda going into those computers at internet cafes. Been part of those operations before. it's just something that is going to be there because it's how you try to win a war without having to fight a war or destroy the morale of troops. And on Ukraine and Russia, yeah, Putin's terrible. He's crazy. He's a megalomaniac. Man, you got to worry about him pushing the button. That's why we always also say don't have any troops against troops. Don't put any U.S. troops or U.S. no-fly zone, because all Putin has to do is push a button, and he would, because he's not going to beat us in a head-on war. It's not going to happen. We saw that when he ran out of gas driving from Georgia to Texas with with this freaking fleet. But to say that the Ukrainians are completely innocent to this, the military and so forth, I would say that's wrong as well. But they did get invaded, so it's like, well, you started it? Well, I don't know. They've been fighting for 10 years on the eastern side of Ukraine. Who really started it? It doesn't matter. All right, just use your common sense. Help out where you can. And I agree with you, guys that want to fight over there, Ian. Have at it. Guys, go do what you think. You think you're doing something well. I felt that a long time ago as well, where I was fighting for something bigger than myself. God bless y'all. Be safe. Do what you have to do. Then get home. But in the meantime, to me, it's a double-edged sword. I don't know who's right at the moment. All I know is that the people in Ukraine, and it's always the people in the countries, they're the ones that actually take the brunt of it and suffer. Both sides in this war, up on the mainframe, and the Ukraine-Russian war, are both thinking they're right. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse as it drags on, because individuals in combat, when they see atrocities or they see their friends killed, it just makes them more jaded, and it makes things easier to do. I'll use an example. Look at Eddie Gallagher. Guys, I know some of you hate me for saying that, but you listen to our whole show. I think there were atrocities there too, but because of things that happen while you're there to you, and you just become jaded. So just use your common sense as an individual. Don't get in that group think echo chamber with everybody around you. Just use your freaking common sense, and just don't follow RT anymore.
But I don't, once again, I don't think they do. I think RT is very slick with how they get things out there. I don't think people here's the last point I actually wanted to make in terms of that is no one thinks they're ever a victim of disinformation, but we've all spread disinformation at one point or another. We've all read something that was disinformation and didn't know it. And we all, I do always feel like it's the baby boomer generation who is the worst with it. I think it's because they probably didn't grow up with computers and all that, and they don't cross-reference things. They just see an article, they take it as fact. If it sides with whatever viewpoint they have, they'll put it out there. And you got to cross-reference the misinformation or any information out there because of the fact that it's very prevalent. Does the government need to set up a department of DHS to combat that? Absolutely not. And also, we do know the DHS, which was started by Bush, by the way, does just go after people for political reasons. Under Bush, they were going after like anti-war protesters. And then under Obama, you had Janet Napolitano, if you remember, she was going after veterans. She was going after anti-abortion activists, going after Ron Paul supporters, going after libertarians, anyone with a Gadsden flag. They were all potential terrorists. And DHS is a very bad track record. It's something that should have never been started, I think.
So just turn everything off. Be like me. Be unplugged and get.
Well, I think you should read the news. I mean, I think you should read the news. I think people should be up on things.
I don't know. I'll just listen to you, brother. You just tell me what we're going to talk about, and that's when I'll read it. I'm certainly not a perfect source of information, but I think people. I mean, we've had plenty of great people on here. Holly McKay. We have Marty Skovland on. Luke Ryan. Jack Murphy, we've had there's a lot of people who write great articles and do put out great information, and actually a lot of the articles that I get are from NBC, and like last week I reported on the USS George Washington. It was a straightforward news article. I think the problem is, and I've heard Marty say it, you shouldn't be watching your news, you should be reading most of your news and not reading headlines. I agree with that. I don't watch, all y'all out there that have followed the show, that even the last time I watched the news was the last time I was on it, and that was 5 years ago. And
no, you were. I counted that. You were on Newsmax like 3 years ago.
Was it 3 years ago?
2.5.
Also, all you new people, you'll understand that my time reference, Ian always is fixing. I'm always way off a year.
It's not 5 years. It's a little bit of an exaggeration.
But it's been a long time. and I won't go on the news anymore. I won't do it. It takes a lot to do that, because I was behind the scenes, and I do see the divisiveness, and I do see the echo chambers on the studios that I go to, and how they both think they're right, and how the arrogance there as well as both. And it's not American to me. It's not the humility. It's not the virtue at all. It's people that want to be big stars on the TV, and for some reason, correspondents now are treated like rock stars, and I think that's just sickening to me. So, yeah, I'm with you, Ian. I'm with you. If you have to pay attention to the news, then read it. Get on and read all the articles. Read everything, and then use your common sense. And as a good Americans, we all have great common sense. Find a determination. Make a determination of what's going on. But as far as war goes, there's no innocent side in war, and there will be atrocities on both sides, and it will continue, and it will even grow as the war goes on, because we are human, and when we see bad things in our heads, it changes you, and it doesn't make it all right. You just don't care anymore. Your human life, you don't care, especially when you see friends die, or you just are around a lot of death. You become desensitized to it, and it's hard to it's hard to bring back that humanity that you had when you first started. So yeah, that's my 2 cents anyway.
We've got some emails to get to, so I definitely want to get to that. Before we do, we always talk about Bub's Naturals, one of our great sponsors, and they do have the best collagen protein on the market. Is not going to disrupt your digestive system or any of that. And really a big part of their mission is 10% of all profits going back to the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. And for those of you who have heard about Bub was an adventure seeker, a river guide, skier, Ironman competitor, fitness fanatic, chef, gardener, handyman, and an epic storyteller. He was a national hero, a Navy SEAL who saved lives and was always the life of the party. And he became a best friend to all who knew him. The spirit lives on within each of us. So that's why Sean Lake created Bub's Naturals. Yeah. And they just have a great line of products, whether it's the MCT oil powder, the apple cider vinegar gummies, the Fountain of Youth formula, and of course, I'd say their flagship product, the one that I really use the most, their collagen protein.
It's tremendous stuff, guys. It does help improve your skin tone. It helps with joint rebuilding your joints. Of course, helps with building some muscle, but the MCT oil as well with rebuilding your gut. That MCT oil tastes great in coffee, but also what it does, it's almost like a pre-workout. I take it before I'm going to do a workout, and it does give me a little boost. Guys, it has been, I have ulcerative colitis, for a lot of you out there that have followed, so know that. And it's the only protein or any supplement I've ever taken that I don't have doesn't cause a flare up, or doesn't cause my stomach to get upset, and pain goes away, cramping and all that. So, it's safe for you guys with inflammatory bowel disease. I've been taking it. Help me with my years. 2 years. We're going to say 5.
Something like that. Something like 2.
But yeah, guys, it's tremendous. Best stuff out there by far. You give it a try. And of course, you're helping out the Glenn Doherty Memorial Foundation. My former teammate, Bub Glenn Doherty, who was with us in Benghazi when he passed away by a mortar attack that evening on 9/12/2012.
Yep. Yeah. So check them out, guys. BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline and you're going to get 20% off. You can find it in stores and all that, but the best deal is going to be through us. That's BubsNaturals.com. Use the promo code Battleline for 20% off. Link is right there in the description, of course. And are you over 35 or older? Or I should say, are you 35 or older? Do you currently feel like you're lacking that primal motivation, drive, and energy you used to? Do you want more out of life and to improve your performance in the gym and the bedroom? Well, here's the deal. Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases, sometimes by 50% by the age of 35. And it only keeps going downhill from there. It doesn't matter how in shape you are or how good your diet is. It's actually happening to all of us. That's where BioPro Plus comes in. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, a 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription HGH growth hormone treatments. It immediately replaces what your body is no longer getting, and it does it naturally without the needles, nasty side effects, or expensive cost of the typical synthetic growth hormone treatment. So if you want to fix your performance in the bedroom, chronic fatigue and pain, or even just how you look in the mirror, you got to check out BioPro Plus, which you've been on for a while now.
It worked. It's been almost 2 months now, a month and a half. But guys, it is tremendous. I've seen my muscle tone come back. It has, and I even could tell the difference using Bubs and then starting to take the bioprotein, that my body was using the Bubs more efficiently. I could just see changes just from taking the Bubs, the collagen protein, the MCT oil, and how it even stepped that up a level because my body now has the human growth hormone, or I should say it was utilizing and making that come back as I'm 51 years old. So it was using all the nutrients, supplements that were in my body more efficiently. It's tremendous stuff, guys. It is. I ran 14 miles when I was in Hawaii over 2 days on trails. I'm 51 years old, and then I worked out after at the gym. I haven't been able to do that since I was 30. So it works, and it's non-synthetic, which is important. I told you at the beginning of the show, I used to take steroids. I used to sell steroids in college. That stuff in the short run might seem it helping, but in the long run, it really damages your body. And if you're taking regular human growth hormone, that's going to cause you to stop making human growth hormone as you get older. So you don't want to take those synthetics. Take this, and it's going to make a huge improvement, just not in your emotional state, your physical state, but also, hey, your libido. And when we have Mrs. Tano on, if she'll ever come on, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Great stuff, guys. I swear by it. It has done wonders for me.
Yeah, so check it out, guys. Bioproteintech.com. Battleline listeners receive $30 off by using Battleline at checkout while supplies last. Bioproteintech.com. $30 off when you use Battleline at checkout. Once again, guys, bioproteintech.com. Use the promo code Battleline at checkout. With that, we've got a few emails to get to, so we'll get into those. Plenty of just different topics this show.
What do we got, man? Let's see.
Yeah, we've got a few different ones. So yeah, we'll get right into them. This first one is from Rose. It says, I think it's because it's Rose Brugg on the Josh. So it's Josh Rosebrugg.
You got that? You got that, right? We're good? You good?
I thought it was Rose at first. So yeah, Josh Rosebrugg. Okay. Dear Ian and Chris, I've listened to your podcast since the beginning. I can always take something away from each episode, whether it's something either of you or one guest has said. Recently, however, I've been able to get something physical from your show. I've been wanting to get into BJJ for a while, but there isn't anything where I live. That's why I want to thank you for having Justin Sheehan on a few weeks ago. The BJJ gym he just opened is close to me, and now my wife and I have both been attending regularly. Justin is an awesome instructor and an even more awesome guy. Thank you again for making this connection possible. So not really a question, but it's great to hear.
Yeah, dude, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Justin, where's he at? Was he in Virginia Beach?
No, Justin was in Michigan.
Michigan. That's outstanding. And that is a great workout. Rolling around on the floor for 3 minutes, you are drenched in sweat. But it is fun once you get down that ground fighting, and especially again, if you do have a great instructor like Justin, I'm sure he is. And he's just the nicest guy in the world. It makes it very unintimidating. I'm sure it's tremendous. So shout out to Justin, and shout out to getting to his dojo there, getting to his training facility there in Michigan. Get out there, guys, and train with him. And you're just going to like him because he's not just a great instructor, former SEAL Team 6 Dev Group guy. So he's got the pedigree, but also he's just the nicest guy in the world. And that's what you want as be an instructor. You want to be very unintimidating so people are comfortable and they can learn.
Yeah, like not intimidating, I guess, but still a badass. I mean, he's he was great having him on, and it's just cool to see that people hear about this through the show. And yeah, Justin even emailed me, and he was like, "Hey, I have people reaching out to me about firearms instruction.
That's awesome,
and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu training." Yes. So yeah, it lets me know that the show is having an impact and a positive impact on people, and it's cool to hear. So yeah, great to hear that. This is one from friend of the show, Audacious Andy. Chris, there are so many people out there, including myself, that suffer from PTSD and anxiety. Some days it consumes me so much that I can't function. Sometimes the feeling can be like a heavy anchor that weighs down your mind and body, and you feel stuck. How do you handle your PTSD or when your demons rear their ugly head? And what advice would you give to people who are suffering and are afraid to get help, or those who are on the path to seeking help? Thank you, Chris and Ian, for keeping it real and unfiltered. I love the podcast, and it makes my Mondays more enjoyable. Thanks again, Andy. Yeah, no, always appreciate. She runs the Tontoism Instagram, if people don't know that. So.
And just to see someone that has improved from when she first started following all the Tano stuff out there and myself to now, she leaps and bounds. I mean, really, I think comes out of her shell, and she works out all the time now too, which is awesome. But I think if you're married, and you have a good relationship with your wife, that is one thing, or your husband, depending if you're male or female or whatever you want to say, husband, wife. If you have that significant other, then you need to talk to them. Let them help you. That's huge. A lot of veterans or even police officers that I talk to, or they'll come and talk to me and say, hey, I'm suffering. Just a question like this, we'll say, and they'll say, how do I get through it? And I'll say, well, are you married? And they'll say, well, I'm divorced, or I'm estranged, or well, I am, but I'm having a hard time with my spouse, or we're not getting along. Well, there's your first indicator. I mean, my hardest times was when I was getting divorced and I was estranged from Tanya, my current wife. We divorced and got remarried. I think that has a lot to do with it. Your spouse will help you get through it. If you don't, then
because in the case of Andy, I know she's not. So
to go on the path to talk to somebody. I know a lot of us are too proud to say we have an issue, have a problem, or we can't help, we can't get through it, but we can't get through it unless we just handle it ourselves. And we want to be, isolated. Don't isolate yourself. Go find somebody to talk to. I've talked to therapists before. When I was estranged from Tanya, and I didn't have her to talk to, I went to the VA, and we had a great VA in Omaha. I know it's different around different states, but the VA was tremendous in Omaha, and talked to a therapist, talked to a mental health specialist, and it did help. We can't do this on your own. Now, eventually, though, you do have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, say, okay, I'm not going to let this beat me, and find a way to just continue to go on. But I remember the days that I didn't want to get out of bed. The best thing I did was forcing myself out of bed. Get out of bed, go do something, get out of bed, go for a run, get out of bed, go to Target, get some coffee, just get out of bed. And that helped a ton as well. You just don't lay there and feel sorry for yourself. And it's that tough love attitude. You are going to get coddled by the mental health therapist. Depending on who your spouse is, you may get coddled there as well. Tanya doesn't coddle me too much, but she does a great job, at least keeping it real for me. But eventually it's up to you. You got to look in the mirror and say, do I want to live like this the rest of my life? 100% of your answers out there should be no. Then you got to fix yourself. And that's find something that you enjoy doing that you can do on your own that helps you. With me, I think Ian might even be the same way. It's physical fitness. I love to run. I love to work out. It helps me. Those endorphins that you get, it does definitely help. But also find somebody to talk to. And if it's not a significant other, it's not a family member, then find a mental health specialist. I do believe in talking to your teammates as well. But you all kind of can share the same stories. And sometimes that doesn't help because you bring memories back that with that other that may bring both of you down, where I think talking to someone that's a professional outside of your group adds a lot of benefit to getting you on the right path, because that person doesn't have any preconceived notions of who you are because they've never worked with you before, where a teammate has. And sometimes you talk to that teammate and you think it's going to help, and you guys both spin down together, and that's happened to me before. But if you are, if that's what helps you at least get your foot in the door, to at least start talking to somebody, talk to that teammate, but eventually get out with that mental health specialist. And then eventually, again, add prayer to your daily life. It helps. Tell God you can't take it and I need your help. And that's what I did. God, I need it. I can't do this. I need you to carry me. That's what I said. And that's when he picked my ass up, started carrying me. And live a good life. If you're doing things you shouldn't be doing, you're breaking a commandment.
True.
Stop breaking those damn commandments. And I don't mean damn commandments as they're damn it. You stop breaking those commandments. And that does help as well. Live a good life. Clean living. There's nothing to be said that for clean living. Clean living, you have no guilt. You have nothing to look back on that's terrible. You don't have anything. And if you have God there that's going to forgive you regardless of what you do, you can live a really good life. So that's it, man. Really, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah. I mean, you could offer more on this than I can, because I don't have PTSD or anything like that. I've gone through episodes of the depression, and I have spoken to a therapist. I don't think that has to be a lifelong thing. It hasn't been for me, because I've definitely gone It comes back now and again, but I've gone very long periods. I've gone periods of a year where nothing really is dragging me down to that point where it's debilitating. Recently, a few months ago, I was even talking to you. I had something that was kind of bothering me, and I snap. At least for me, I snap out of things pretty quickly. But I think sometimes people are reluctant to go to a therapist, and I know I was, because the stereotype there is, oh, they're going to make me go on medication. They're going to, and well, some of them might, but the guy that I went to, he wanted me to get an analysis and go to a because he's a psychologist, right? He wanted me to go to a psychiatrist. I get them messed up. The people who could actually give you medication. And, the guy was straight up with me, and he said to me, yeah, you suffer from some depression, but it sounds like you have certain outlets with working out, with journaling that you do. And he said, hey, I could write you a prescription right now, but if you don't want me to, I'm not going to. He said, if you want me to, I can definitely prescribe you something. I said, no. And I've never been on any medication for depression or anything like that. I was once on medication for ADD, which I think is kind of bullshit, but that's a whole nother, and that'll probably offend some people. But that's a whole nother tangent, I guess, because I could do a 2-hour podcast. I can do a 5-hour podcast with you and pay attention. I think like many other males in particular, we just don't like to be in a classroom being lectured, for however long, your mind wanders. I don't think that's a disorder. I think it's just the way it is. But yeah, I don't be, if you go to the right person, you get a referral for the right person, and you're worried that they're going to put you on medication for something, you have the right to say, I don't want to be on medication.
I don't want to be on it. Yeah.
They can't make you get on anything. And I know, like in the case of her, I know Andy well enough through all of this that she's not someone who has some major issue where it's, because there are people who legally the state needs to put away somewhere, right? And they're going to put you on medication. Unless you're in that category, no, you have a right to say, I don't want to be on anything. I just want to talk to somebody. And actually, this isn't a sponsor. We're even saying, like, one of our former sponsors, BetterHelp. You could even do it online now.
Yeah.
You don't even have to go anywhere. So there's really no excuse, I think, not to do something, because if you want to just sit at home and do it on your computer, you can now. If you want, there's all these different options available. So that's what I would add.
And find work. I always say in the military, find work. You're always finding work. Whenever you're clearing a house, you're finding work. Whenever you're on a mission, you're finding work. You're always finding something to do. That keeps your brain from going down a slippery slope and spinning it. But at night, there's nothing you can do at night. That's just how it is. You don't want to stay up all the time either, because that's not going to help you. I agree with you on the medication too. I took medication thinking it might help. It didn't. It actually made it worse for me. What helped me on the emotional state was the CBD. That actually helped a bunch. The CBD oil definitely did help from, and we use Ned. Ned's been a tremendous sponsor for us, but their CBD oil has been awesome, and that helped me get off the medication. But guys, it does take yourself looking in the mirror. And you said another thing, journaling. When I was having my bad issues, I'd write things down, and I still have my book. I still have it. I
still write all the time. I have stacks and stacks and stacks of books. I go to Starbucks and I'll do some reading, and I say Starbucks because I actually do think it's good to get outside, and you might get in a conversation with someone, just like the gym. I have great conversations with people, and I bring whatever I'm reading. I bring my journal. I write some thoughts down, ideas for the show, maybe ideas for different things I want to do, and I read books. I try to read other books. I read a lot of autobiographies and that type of thing. So
and you can do it, guys. Every one of you can get out of that funk. If I could, I know every one of you can. When it's going to be, I can't tell you that. Yeah, it's up to you. But it is up
God's
to that individual.
Watch, right? Like it's not on your
time. It's not on your time. But as long as you just live clean, find some good positive outlets to have. Whether that's physical or whether that's going to Starbucks and reading a book, that is a positive outlet. To me, that is extremely positive. Writing stuff down, drawing, if you're a great artist, doing something that is that makes you feel good. And also you at the end state, you can look at it and be like, man, I completed that. That makes you feel good. Just anything. It doesn't have to just be physical fitness or going to the range and shooting. I think artists or musicians, that is the same thing to me, because it takes practice to be perfect at that too. And it's something you can strive to attain and get improving and continue to improve on. And it's very therapeutic. So I know I'm big into guns and fitness, but I also believe in art, and I also believe in music, and I believe in philosophy and reading. And if that's what you're into, then make that your positive outlet and get good at that. and you're going to see yourself change and look in the mirror because it's something you're accomplishing over time. But you're right. It's God's path. God's going to decide for you. And pray, guys, find your faith again. It does help immensely.
Yeah. You have to, kind of what you're saying. You got to have purpose in your life. You have to have some type of purpose. It's always and it's always got to be something new. It can't just be always like looking back on things that you've accomplished. You got to always strive for something new in your life to accomplish. All right, next one here is from a guy who writes us all the time. Great listener, Michael Moore. Chris and Ian, really great podcast with Matt Waters. For the past years, I've been a vendor for Fort Lewis. Chris, the base, I'm sure you know well. My company has outfitted the majority of their barracks, including the Ranger barracks on post. For the longest time, I would stay overnight in Tacoma, and now I don't even go near the place. It is a dump and really dangerous to be there at night. The same goes for Seattle. Once beautiful cities with many things to see and do, but not any longer. Matt is right. If you are a cop in the Northwest from Portland to the Canadian border, the best thing you can do is not be one. It's completely out of control. I wish Matt all the best, and as usual, a solid American who rises above his injury and faces to the challenges before him. Truly a good example of America strong. Thanks for getting him on again. I really enjoyed the podcast. Keep him coming. Michael Moore.
Not a question again, just saying, but I've been in the Northwest for a long time. So I really, before I like to say, yeah, it's exactly like that, or even with what Maddie said, now Maddie would know, being a Tacoma police officer, I still like to see it with my own eyes. So I'm sure there's still good pockets there. There's Chris Dykos, one of my Ranger buddies, lives there. And
to be fair, it's funny because I talked to Chris off the air, like Chris might fit in more there because Chris is more of a left-wing guy. He just is, which goes to the military is not a monolith. Matt's clearly a little bit more of a center-right guy.
Center-right guy, Chris more center-left, but crime doesn't care if you're left or right, guys. It doesn't. So I think there are, but I tend to agree that it is probably a little bit more dangerous, if not a lot more dangerous, just because Maddie was a cop there, so he was seeing the underbelly of it all, where Chris wasn't. Chris lives there, but he's not involved in the crime on a daily basis, and Maddie was for many, many years. So it's sad to say that because the Northwest is beautiful. That's where I learned how to scuba dive. It was in the Puget Sound. It's gorgeous. I ran all over that place up there when I was living there in Olympia and Puyallup when I was stationed there with 2nd Ranger. But I think it can come back. It's just the people there have to say if the crime is as bad as they say it is out there, and it's certain groups, then guys, you gotta back your law enforcement. Your law enforcement's going to stop that, and everybody has to. But law enforcement on that end, you also have to uphold standards. Remember, Maddie said the standards have dropped immensely. Well, if the standards have dropped, then you're going to get substandard police officers, and that in turn could create some problems on the streets. Well, cops, you got to hold your high standards in, and you got to be perfect. You really do. I think it was Chris Rock that did that joke, like he said it when.
You can't have any bad apples.
Yeah, bad apples. And I think he made the comparison to the airline pilots. Speaking of the devil, the airline pilots, like, well, everybody's good except for George. Don't worry about George. He might crash the plane and kill 100 people, but the other 99% are good. No, as a police officer, you all have to be up to that high standard, and that's up to the departments to uphold those standards. And then on the ground, it's up to that individual to have that virtue and humanity. So I think it's a double-edged sword. If you're not getting the police officers to the standard that you need them at, then you're putting them on the street to deal with people that have no standards because they're just criminals. It's not a good recipe for success. But the only way you can fix that is the people there have to want the place to get better, and they have to vote as such. And you have to put the right people in charge. And you can't have a defund Washington was a big defund the police time for at least the metropolitan areas, from what I understand. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, because sometimes I speak off the cuff and I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. But I believe I think
everybody saw that.
I think that didn't help, guys, and now you're kind of paying the price for it. So got to be smarter. Common sense. Like I said, individuals as Americans, we have mucho common sense, tons of common sense. So we get in these groups that we lose our fucking minds. So utilize your common sense. And then if Washington is still not the place you want to be, then do like everybody else is doing. Move someplace you want to. I guarantee you when the taxes start falling and the state isn't getting revenue because they're losing 300, 400,000 people, politicians will change their minds on how they stand. And we're starting to see that already. Because I don't think I've heard a defund the police in a long time. I've heard actually we need more police is what I've been hearing, or when you send me an article or if I read something, that's what I see in the majority of the states. So I don't know what you're feeling on it, brother. I guess.
No, so if you guys are watching the video, you might have saw I was typing there just because I was trying to refresh on who the guest was. But like, yeah, when we had Christopher Strom on, who was an NYPD intel officer and Marine, and you were talking about the standards. I mean, if you guys listen back to that episode, remember he was talking about how they changed the triggers on guns.
Yeah.
You had to put more force
heavy
behind
pull.
the trigger,
That's dangerous.
Yeah, and all different types of like crazy stuff that was going on that didn't make any sense. So yeah, when you were talking about that the standards need to be correct, it reminded me of that. So it seems like in all major cities, you're having these issues with guys that we've had on who have the experience, who have been there and seen it. Guys like Christopher Strom, and guys like Matt Waters, they'll tell you the standards are not there.
And that is not a recipe for success on the street. I know it's the cops think I'm crazy, and people out there would think I'm crazy, but community policing, Matt mentioned, that's huge, guys, and we don't do that anymore. Community policing is when you used to have the beat cops that would walk the neighborhood.
When we had Derek Gannon on, he talked about that too.
We don't have that anymore. You got police officers with their Terminator shades on. They look like they honestly, and I know a lot of cops aren't, but they look like assholes that you don't want to talk to. You're giving off the wrong persona. Now, you see a lot of cops getting shot on the street. So having cops walk on the street again, maybe we're past that point of no return. We can never do that. But I do think if we could, the community policing and people actually getting to know that your police officers in your neighborhoods, I really do think that would help, because now you're putting a face and you're actually meeting this person and you're saying, hey, you know what? He's got a badge on, but he's not an asshole. He's actually a really nice guy. Or the cop going to the house that may look unkempt or just, it looks like a crack house, and you go in and it's just people that are having a hard time on life right now, but they're good people. They just need a leg up or a little help. And we don't have that anymore. Community policing is not out there. And I think if we had community policing like we did in the good old days, or if we just did it more with the beat cops or people in the community getting to know the officers that patrol their neighborhoods, I think a lot of this would stop, to be honest with you, because you find out neither sides are assholes. They're just thinking each other's ass because they don't talk to each other. And then, of course, the media, bring back to the media doesn't help that either. So whether you're right or left. So I don't know, you guys can say, Tony, you got your dick growing out your forehead. You know what you're talking about. There's no way we're putting cops on the streets again because they're going to get shot. That might be a possibility just because of the ambushes. And you see them in New York, the cops get ambushed while they're sitting in their cars. I don't know. I tend to, if I know somebody, then try and know how they are and talk to them, brother. I have less of thoughts of thinking of how they are, especially if they look like assholes. There have been a lot of guys I've met that I thought were assholes before I met them. And then when I met them, it's like, he's not an asshole. He's actually a really good dude. He just gave off that persona of being an asshole, whether it was the shades he was wearing, the way he was holding himself, or she was an asshole. And then you met him like, really good dude. She's really cool. And I think we get these things of how people act or how we think they're going to act, or their personality, just because of the damn social media, and because we don't take the time to go say, hey dude, I'm Chris. How are you? What's your name? We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I do think the NYPD actually gets right is it is without a doubt a very diverse police force, and you need to have that, because New York especially, you got areas of Flushing that are all Korean, you got areas of the Bronx that are all Latino, and you have to have people that could that look like they're part of the area and are able to talk to people. So guys who actually I'd like to have on at some point, like Ricky Poe, who's an Asian police officer that I know from the gym. I think it's important to have that type of thing. I know some people, it obviously should always be best person for the job. Of course, I know people are going to combat that with that, but I do think in an area like New York, you have to have people who could speak with all different types of people. And hey, I will say this too. If you look at what happened on the subway that we talked about a few weeks ago, I don't think that would have happened at Penn Station. I think there's a lot less of that you see at Penn Station, because you go there and there is always a heavy police presence. And, You need to have that, I think, in a place like New York City. I'm not a, police state kind of guy. I think in most areas of the country, yeah, you don't need that. But a place like Penn Station or subways late at night, yeah, you do have to have a
Well,
heavy
dude, that's smart. That's just, again, common sense. The probability of there being a crime going on in an area that has a ton of people, that is visibly away from the streets, that you don't have deterrence there because you don't have enough police force. Of course, that's an easy target. That's just common sense, brother. I don't think you're saying that. I don't think you're saying anything, or I'm taking that, yeah, we need more cops to make a police state. You're just saying, hey, this is a high crime area. The probability of crime is there. So probably want to put more deterrence there, so there's not, because that's what a successful police officer is someone that has never had to deal with crime, because crime's too afraid to come around and commit it around them because they're always present. That's success to me. Not seeing cops having to go hands on to apprehend somebody because there's crimes, there's criminals and there's crime all the time. It's success in policing to me is never having crime in the area that you have police, because crime's too afraid to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, although that's never going to happen in major cities.
I know that.
There's never going to be a time that Chicago and New York City is super low crime.
That's a pipe dream. You're right. It's a pipe dream.
Yeah. But I just mean like areas like Penn Station, they're prime for a terrorist attack. And I think areas like that, you have to have a heavy police presence. You just, anyway.
That's common sense, man. That's just your common sense. And that's a good statement, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Last email here is from Robin, who writes us all the time. And this is actually a really good one. I have a lot to say about this one. Good evening, KP and Ian. Thank you so very much for answering my question about cancel culture. Just wanting your insights on yet another topic. I have an almost 11-year-old son, and as a mom, I definitely am in the know of the challenges or trends going on, especially on social media. Let's face it, times are completely different than when I was 11, especially with the access to sites like YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, etc., and the influence they do have on our kiddos and all of society for that matter, especially when it comes to sex, politics, and religion. Please know that I love and respect all people, but seriously wonder if some of the things they do are only done because they see things on social media and want to be in the in crowd. I don't know if you remember the ice bucket challenge back in 2014, but it seemed everyone wanted to do it to look cool, but had no idea what ALS was. After that, it seems as though it's a new challenge all the time, from Gangnam style dancing, which in all actuality isn't that harmless. But then you have the crate challenge, where folks are getting seriously hurt or even killed, like eating Tide Pods, blackout challenge, etc. Then there's the trends with the BLM movement, LGBTQ movement, etc., where you're faking it, but in all actuality, you just want to feel included, and that's really not part of what you are as a person. Left versus right, mask versus non-mask, Christian versus atheist. What's going on with the invasion of Ukraine? I could go on and on, but hopefully you get the point. People's standpoints might be disingenuous just to fulfill the need for inclusivity. As always, your thoughts and opinions are appreciated. Sorry, this is a bit windy, but trying to sum up a lot going on. No, I thought it was a good email. Thank you again, Robin. She makes a lot of good points. You want me to start this?
Yeah.
This goes back to completely, I think, what I said about disinformation and TikTok. And TikTok is like the biggest culprit of this, because it's a wing of the Communist Chinese Party. That's what it is. That's where your information is going. It's bad enough we have.
Before you get started,
did
you think, because this is one thing I do know, I never paid. Trump didn't he want to have TikTok in this country?
He did. And I think the problem was, I mean, in all honesty, my opinion, as I think he did a horrible job of articulating it, because people on TikTok were attacking him. And it looked like, just Trump's ego. It looked like it was all about, I'm being attacked, let's shut this thing down. When in all actuality, he should have gone out there and said, no, this is a national security issue. This is data going to China. And there actually are members of Congress who did a good job of articulating that. And that's why I believe they either banned or were banning TikTok from military bases and that type of thing. Because it's a national security risk. Your data is going to China. It's bad enough we have social media companies spying on Americans from the American government. Like, we don't need the Chinese government getting. So, I mean, there's a reason I will never be on any of those apps. I do as little social media as possible. Personally, I'm on Twitter. That's about it. The show is on
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, all of that.
Sorry, but go ahead, brother.
The point. Yeah, no, I would have been all for banning TikTok for sure. I agree with Trump. I just think he could have articulated it a lot better, personally.
Well, shocker.
Yeah, because I think I mean, when he talked about banning it, I don't think most Americans knew why. I think they were like, oh, he's butthurt because they're making fun of him. There were people on TikTok buying tickets to his events and not showing up and, doing crazy shit like that. So I think they took it as, we're pissing off Trump, when he could have gone out there and made us. I mean, I didn't hear him say anything about national security regarding TikTok, which should have been the issue. So anyway, the point is, though, I think TikTok is like the biggest purveyor of what's it called, of disinformation. And they do make certain things trend for a reason. When you talk about the whole LGBTQ movement, this is not a conspiracy. You can look this up. If you look at how China is run out of how TikTok is run out of China, the things the algorithm has trending for kids are really important skills like mechanics and math and like science and things that kids should be learning. If you look at what's trending for kids on TikTok in America, it is a lot of LGBTQ stuff and transgender and all that. And, a lot of I was born in the wrong body and all that type of stuff. And then I see a lot of anti-American propaganda that trends. There was a huge video that I'm not on TikTok, but it was all over Twitter. It was all over Instagram. It originated from TikTok. That was a ton of misinformation about Israel. Why are they doing that? I think it's to put out the idea that America is bad. All of America's allies are bad. All of America's allies are always in the wrong. Israel has done everything wrong and the Palestinians are 100% innocent, when everything is a little bit more nuanced than that. But I think they're purposely trending things on the algorithm that'll create distrust in America. And yeah, I think all these things are trending for a reason. They're trending to create a lot of hatred amongst us, to create infighting. And I think China is sitting back with their popcorn and watching the U.S. implode. I could tell you this, man, when I worked at Sirius XM, someone came back from China, right? And they had a Chinese propaganda poster. And what was on the poster? It was a police officer beating a black man, right? This is what they want China to believe the U.S. is. It had all different types of horrible things in America, and this is what they put out there. And then they put it out to us on social media, and we all get on because they masquerade it, as I said, with silly dance challenges and all this stuff. But they make sure they throw in some propaganda there as well that's anti-America. And so I do think, the rise, right? This would be a whole nother issue, but the rise in the transgender and all that, I think a lot of it is politically motivated for sure. I mean, this would be a whole nother topic, like I said. But I think there's a reason you're seeing more and more biological boys saying, I believe I'm a woman born in the wrong body. I think a lot of that is social media. Absolutely. Just my opinion.
And it's at a time, it's at a time too, where you're been in high school where you have a lot, you don't really know what you are. You don't know what you're going to do, what's going to happen down the line. And if there's a way to press that, well, that's what they're doing. Unconventional warfare. It's what it is. They're taking advantage of it. I'm not on TikTok. I don't ever want to be on TikTok.
No, but dude, no one our age or older should be on TikTok. Like, even if you are going to be on, like, it's embarrassing. I feel like anyone who's like 40, 50, trying to be a social media influencer, like, to me, right? Unless you're a hot chick, right? Those who should be influencers. But if you're like a man my age or your age, you should not be doing dance challenges. Like, you look very silly. You look very immature, right?
I mean, there is that spot in there from 40 to 80, and then if you do it after 80, then you're cute. Then you're
I agree.
But again, it's common sense, guys. If they're pushing out something and this is horse shit, then then why follow it? Why? And as far as
could I? I'm going to count you on this.
Go.
You're saying that as a man in his 50s, right? You're able to discern information. They're not targeting you. They're targeting the 12-year-old kid who,
this
who isn't going to discern information as much as you. And there definitely are. This would be very controversial to get into. But I personally, once again, whatever. People are going to be mad at me, agree with me. There definitely are more and more young boys saying, I believe I'm a girl. I want to be put on female, what would the word be? Estrogen, yes.
Hormones,
yeah, female hormones. And yes, there are some people I know who experience gender dysphoria and all that, whole nother topic, but there's a reason it's prominent in the past 2 years. It's not just a coincidence that suddenly people are feeling this way.
Yeah.
It is social media pushing this way more, when some of these people either may just be, girls who are, tomboys, as they would say, or gay men. But there's a big difference between that and saying I was born in the wrong body. And hey, maybe we'll have Kristen Beck on at some point and she can get into this, because I love talking to Kristen Beck and all these things, but yeah, they're targeting young kids with this. And it's easy, I think, for you to say as a man in his 50s, yeah, they're putting out false information. It's a lot different, especially for the 12-year-old kid who might not have a father figure at home, and this kind of is their father figure, is going on the phone and getting their information on TikTok.
Yeah, well, that's where parenting comes into. I have a 17-year-old boy. I have a 13-year-old daughter. My 6-year-old boy. Parenting, you need to see what your kids are into. You need to be parents, just like my parents were. You have to be involved. I'm completely against the teachers and stuff getting involved with families' issues, with things that should be done at home. I know the Florida statute,
sure.
And I read that actually. It was
it's so small.
I know, but I didn't.
It's not like the Obamacare. It's like a few pages.
I thought
right?
I was pretty like, holy shit! I read a document from the U.S. government. Like,
it's pretty straightforward.
I didn't see where it said "don't say gay" anywhere.
No,
I'm just saying I didn't see it in there anywhere. But I agree that parents need to be involved. So guess what? You got to parent. You got to know. And if that is an issue that comes up, it may be uncomfortable, but you got to talk about it with your kids. Find out, and chances are, they're just being kids. They're going through a hard time, like we all do when we're at that age and we're going to our teenage years and things are coming out. And maybe, or you don't have the friends that you want to have, or maybe you're not popular at school. And then you think this will make you popular, or maybe there is an issue where there is some physical trait or XY chromosome that's not matching up. I know there's a name for it. I don't know what you said, but you got to parent. You got to find out what's going on. And as far as cancel culture goes, I don't know, in the Midwest, we don't really see that out here too much. Learn your history. The high school my son goes to, they teach him history. They haven't pulled anything out of it. It's good history. Know your history. I think it's the biggest thing. So you don't repeat history, is knowing what your history is. When I grew up, we learned about slavery. And slavery was bad back then. We knew that, and we knew that discrimination was bad back then. This isn't something new that's just all of a sudden popping up. I think the media presses it out there, so it creates that divisiveness. But be a parent, man. You got to be a parent, and you got to be involved, and you got to talk to your kids. And if there's an issue, when I see my son come in and he looks a little different, I'll go up to him and say, "Hey, what happened today?" I said, "You do good in school?" And he'll, "Yeah." He's a 7-year-old. Yeah, I was good. I said, "You good? Something wrong?" No. Are you sure? Because you look like something's wrong. No, Dad, nothing's wrong. And then if there is, he may not talk to me, but he'll talk to my wife when I leave the room. It's just a way of saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm your dad." Yeah, you may not talk to me, but he will. He'll go tell his mom, which is good. To me, that's a win. It kind of hurts my feelings that he doesn't want to tell me, but at least to him, I'm saying there's an issue. I saw something, and normally it's something small. Maybe he missed a test, or he didn't do well, or he had a bad high school practice, or his girlfriend dumped him. Something which I'm glad I'm dealing with those things, but it's still, as a parent, if he comes and said, "Dad, I think I'm gay." All right, well, let's sit down and talk about this. And would I love him any less? No, I wouldn't. I'll tell you that right now. And then maybe he will one day. Maybe he won't. What I'm saying is, it's not something that's going to shock my system, because I'm being a parent, I'm being involved. And he does have TikTok, and I do watch what he watches on TikTok. And
do you worry about like your phone's data going to China though?
His phone's data, yeah, I do a little bit.
I mean, it's yours. I mean,
it is mine.
It isn't paying the bill.
I do a bit, but to me, what he watches, and I do monitor it pretty good. If that's the worst thing that he's watching is the dancing and stuff, and we do.
I don't mean that. I just mean your actual.
No, you're right. You're right. It is something that that I worry about. And as soon as I can convince Mama and them that I don't want him to have TikTok anymore, but he doesn't have Instagram, he doesn't have Twitter, he doesn't have Facebook, and we won't let him on that social media.
But to be fair, I think TikTok is worse than all of them.
Hey, bro, we're gonna have Mama Tanya on the phone, and that's where, as a parent,
you just got to compromise
and having a respect all men. Yeah, I respect my wife. Men respect their wives, sure. And I respect my wife. And she's like, yeah, it's not hurting nothing. And I haven't, I haven't had my title stolen yet, or my anybody's gotten my bank account yet. I do have LifeLock though. Great. I love LifeLock. That's tremendous, great stuff. But it comes down again to where we're going to have this out there. We always have had something out there as growing up as a kid. Growing up, I did too. My parents had to deal with. Now we're dealing with. That's just being a parent. So you got to be involved. And I think the more that parents are involved with their kids, even though it may be hard, or may have their kid not want them to be involved, but you still have to be a parent getting there. I think the more parents are involved, the less problems like this we'd be having. I just think a lot of parents just let social media and let them be the parents for our kids now. And that's not how it is. Social media is something that your kid should ask you if they can have. And then once they do, if you say yes, you monitor it. If you say no, well, then they don't get it, and you monitor it that way too. But to me, a lot of these problems are going because we aren't being parents, or we're afraid to question our kids, or, which I'm glad we're stopping this. We used to let the kids, counselors and school officials be the parents, and that's wrong, completely wrong. Never. Parents should always have say of their kids and what goes on in school and their futures. But you got to be involved, man. You have to, and I'm extremely involved. I love being a father now. I wasn't as involved when I was deploying overseas, and honestly, I missed that. That bothers me. But luckily, I have a tremendous wife, and she's awesome. She monitored it for us, and she did an excellent job with my 7-year-old. And he's turned out well. But you're right. I'm with you on the TikTok. I agree with you, man. I didn't want it. I said, no TikTok. No, he's got to have something. You're going to let him have Instagram. You're going to let him have a Facebook. I'm like, shit.
Yeah. Fine. I mean, I think people, and part of it is because I come from this world, right, of media. And I think people are they go on these, all of them, right? Facebook, Instagram. They're like, oh, it's free. It's entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's really not free. I mean, the currency is your data. The currency is they're learning more and more information about you. These apps know you better than you think you know. And yeah, there is definitely there's a war for. I mean, it sounds very Alex Jones, but yeah, I like how Alex Jones has become like a verb, because even he's used it. He's like, I don't need to go full Alex Jones. But yeah, there is like a war for your mind out there, and they're gonna feed stuff that is probably like the worst stuff out there, and we're all influenced by it, man. Yeah. Once again, kind of goes back to something I said earlier in the show, but like none of us ever think we're a victim of propaganda. We all think we're too smart for that. But all of us at one point or another has fallen for some type of propaganda. Yeah. It happens to everyone. It happens to every major news outlet. We found out they put something out there that was complete Russian, China, or U.S. propaganda, right? In your case, there's a lot of smart people who do believe the Benghazi attack happened because of a YouTube video. Yeah. That they're not idiots. They fell for propaganda. So I do think it's important, as you said, if you are a parent, but I think what I worry about, and I'm not a parent, so I have no, I have no say in this, and I have no, I shouldn't be advising anyone on how to be a parent, obviously, but I do know there's tons of kids out there, as you said, and I said, who don't have parents. So they're being taught completely by social media, and they're putting out some very, very bad stuff out there, man. And there definitely is a war for your mind out there.
I'm glad you're saying that, because if you don't have a parent or somebody that's stepping in, or that is your parent, well, to heed Ian's advice here, guys, watch out what you're looking at, because you're getting brainwash. Brainwash has been used too damn much now. It's like just a catch term, but you're being influenced, and you're being influenced wrongly. And as to an influencer, I hate to call myself, I don't like calling, but I kind of am, but I hate it. I hate being called an influencer.
No, I don't think you are. I think I think of an influencer as someone who, like, dude, their job is just to like post videos on social media. They don't really do anything else. They don't add any value. I think what you do is totally different, man. You're a public speaker. You're, war veteran of several wars, contractor. I think to put you in that category is ridiculous. Like, I don't know. When I think of, I'm trying to think of who I think of when I think of influencer, like a male influencer. I don't know. There's a ton of them out there, but I wouldn't put you in that category. I don't think.
I guess if you are out there on social media, whether you are out there all the time, that's why when you see my post, I'll do some promos out there because I do believe in stuff. Every product that we have, I use, and I want people to take good stuff and put it in their bodies, especially because you don't put bad stuff in your bodies, because I've also known how that can hurt you. But the majority of the posts I do, it's positive, or it's faith, or something. That's what I think that's what social media needs to be for, more than anything. And you don't see it as much. And when you do, the rant and rave posts I used to do when I was more politically driven, it's sad, got way more followers and likes than the ones when I try to do something positive. But that's okay. I'm still going to try to be positive, because that's what social media should be for, not the divisiveness, not for the propaganda that gets put out there, not for the Chinese to collect your data. But that's never going to change. So you just have to be wary. And as a parent, you need to be a parent, and you need to be involved with your kids. How uncomfortable it may be, you still need to be involved, as my parents were with me. Always involved, always asking, hey, you good? Everything wrong? And a lot of times it bugged the shit out of me. I remember being in high school, I'm like, Mom, I'm good. Or something bad did happen. I didn't want to talk about it. But in the end, I was glad they asked, because I knew that my parents they cared. So and eventually I would talk to one of my parents about what was going on, because I knew they weren't going to judge me for it. They were just going to be parents. So, brother, as Ian being a non-parent, I think he gives you great advice. As me being a parent, I think I'm giving you pretty good advice to how to be a parent as well. We got both sides covered. So now it's up to you. Do you want to believe all the propaganda that's on TikTok, or how about just get off TikTok, or get off social media, or at least some forms of social media? And if you are on it, just take everything on with a grain of salt, and do your research before you start believing something that's pushed out there.
Yeah. Man, this has been we covered a lot of stuff this
episode.
Holy
shit, it's almost 11. Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, covered a lot of material here. So if you're not checking out the video, I know most of you guys are listening, subscribe to us on YouTube. Hopefully YouTube really goes somewhere for us. I mean, we could really use it. I see how good some of these videos do at the Team House. So I would love to be on that same level. So hopefully D can help us out. And we have a great lineup of shows the rest of this month. As I said, I would love to get someone on from Top Gun Maverick. I've been working on that. Alex Hollings, who we had on, retired Marine, who we had on, who writes for the Sandbox. He's helping me out. Because he's going to meet the whole cast for the Sandbox. And I'm like, dude, help us get someone on. I don't care if it's like pilot number 5. And then I asked him if he's going to get Tom Cruise. He's meeting Tom Cruise. And he's like, no, I'm meeting everyone except Tom Cruise. I'm like, that's who I would want to meet. He's like, oh, well, I'm not really a fan of the guy anyway, with his Scientology and all that. I'm like, yeah, I don't care about that.
Yeah, man,
I love Tom Cruise. Yeah. I would want to meet Tom Cruise. So that's cool that he's doing that. But I mean, I think I will say, man, I think the people behind these movies like Top Gun Maverick have to know, when they're doing media, like, this is your audience, man. This is the audience who's going to go out and support these films. I know they're going to do Entertainment Tonight and all that type of stuff, but don't ignore the military podcasts, because we go out there and I don't really see movies, but Top Gun Maverick, I'm going to go out and see. Absolutely. And hopefully it's good. I hope there's a Kenny Loggins song in
That's what make it awesome. I'll see Top Gun as well. I grew up on Top Gun, the first one, and it was awesome.
And we've been waiting. It came out, didn't come out 1986, the year I was born, I think.
I think so. And the remake came out 5 years ago. Help me with I'm just being facetious, guys. How many was it, a couple years ago, or they tried to finish it?
There was a remake? I didn't even know that.
No. This one, not the remake. This Top Gun came out, they had finished it before COVID or something happened.
Yeah. So right before COVID. Yeah. But 1986. I mean, So we've been waiting 35 years for a new Top Gun. Like I'm excited for this, or 37 years, or 36 years.
And
Yeah, I'm excited for this, and I would love to get someone on just to talk about it. And regardless of some of the stuff I said before with the Taiwan stuff, I'm still excited for the movie. I always give both sides of what's going on in terms of like Hollywood being in bed with China, and we won't get into that if we have someone on. But I would love to speak to someone from the movie. So hopefully that'll be at the end of the end of the month. Fingers crossed.
If we can, that'd be great. I'd be honored to have somebody on just to, because I do, of course, I love war movies. And I've been part of a war movie where he did a good job, did actually an outstanding job, Michael Bay, of getting it accurate. And that's the questions I would be, because when you watch war movies as a veteran, if you see something that's even accurate a little bit, you get literally, it's like the movie's done. I don't want to watch this shit anymore. I can't do it. So having somebody on, we can add a lot of validity to we can a lot of validity to the movie if you want to come on and tell us how, and you're going to get a lot more veterans to the movie if you say, yeah, this movie, we made it as accurate as we could, and here's why, and here's how, and then just talking about, just Top Gun itself, because it is iconic. It will last. That's a movie that'll last forever. You're going to see it, and you hope the second one will last forever as well.
You hope you don't screw it up. But the thing that excites me, I don't know if you saw, this was going around on the YouTube video, is I can't believe it. Like, Tom Cruise is still out there doing his own stunts, and he's still insisting like the crew do their own stunts, and that the people filming it, like, that they're in a plane going upside down and it's not all CGI. Like, I think Tom Cruise is a guy, whatever you want to say about the Scientology stuff, like, he's a guy who takes his craft very seriously. And I think he always does an awesome job. I mean, hey, if Alex said, I got you like Tom Cruise on the show, man, that would be bucket list right there. I'd love to have him on.
But I tell you what, that's respectable. And I have much respect whether I agree with your occupation or not. And I don't care about it. I think I've met some tremendous actors like Pablo Schreiber and John Krasinski, and they're tremendous individuals. But I always admire somebody, whether I like you or not. I will always admire and respect you if you put 100% into your craft and you work your ass off, because that's how you get success. That's how you become successful. And I think Tom Cruise, just from what I've seen, and you hear those stories about how he's a workaholic and how he works his ass off. Of course, other things in your life suffer when you do that. When you put work first, it does. Been there, done that. But I still admire and respect someone that works their tail off to put out the best product they can, because that shows a lot of integrity. So yeah, Mr. Cruise, respect for you, because I'm not a big fan of Hollywood in itself, but people and actors like Pablo, who he's doing awesome on Halo right now, and he obviously, I'm watching it go, man, he put his ass, he worked his ass off for it. Hey, all I've ever heard from other people within the industry, of the little bit that I was in, was that you worked your ass off. And to me, that is respect enough right there for him to have on the show. If he ever wanted to come on our little podcast.
Yeah, you never know, man. I mean, over the years, I look at some of the people I've had on, and if I'm going to be honest, it blows my mind that some of these people have come on shows. Stuff that we've done with Ted Nugent, stuff, Diamond Dallas Page, and then previously I've interviewed like Roger Stone. I've interviewed I'm trying to think. I mean, Buzz Aldrin, that was one of the major ones. I mean, I can't believe that I'm on a show right now with Buzz Aldrin. It blows my mind. So yeah, you never know. It would be cool to happen. And that's really it, guys. Once again, check out the YouTube. Please subscribe to us. Please leave us your comments. Share the show out. Hopefully our Twitter starts to get higher up there now with Elon Musk at the helm.
Yeah, so, we'll see. Well, we can validate if there was some shadow banning going on or not. I think a lot of people probably have seen that, man.
I could validate that.
Well, if that goes on so much, guys, it's terrible. Just be fair. Be equal and fair to everybody. Don't try to, especially if you're taking a side for politics. Don't push away other humans because of politics, man. That's just terrible. And hopefully that stops. Maybe, it'd be cool to have Elon Musk on too. If you want to go big and talk to him about it, because that is, and that is, again, another thing that is respectable, sticking your neck out there for integrity.
Did you see Elon Musk on the Babylon Bee by any chance?
I don't think I did. No, I didn't.
Elon Musk did a podcast with the guys from the Babylon Bee. And speaking of him going on like smaller podcasts, and they said to Elon Musk, this is why I love Elon Musk. They said to Elon Musk, they were like, it's crazy that you're sitting down with us. Like, you could be on like CNN right now. And Elon Musk is like, this is his quote. He's like, nah, I don't think I'm perverted enough for CNN.
I'm not like, I know I'm exactly hold a gun to your head for this podcast.
I might be asking him right now. I'm sorry, I don't.
You could be on CNN right now.
Yeah.
You know,
John Lemon could
a
be
real news organization. Yeah, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know.
No, unfortunately, I just haven't. I guess what was it you said the requirement for being a CNN job at CNN is.
Are you a pervert?
I'm not perverted enough. I guess I don't know.
Not a big pedophile fan.
I think we probably should end it. We're going to end our podcast on that note. I got nothing now. That's awesome. He's right. Sorry. That's like me going on the 700 Club and saying, are there any evil people in the world? From the Pat Robertson Jr. and me saying, and I did say this on the show. I don't know, maybe they cut it. I said, yeah, everybody at CNN. And he's like, I don't think everybody at CNN's evil. I was like, well, you asked me the question. I thought I'd tell you. And I remember walking off the stage. Did they cut it
out? Did they? Or
I don't know. I thought they kept it on, but I haven't been able to find it since. And it was on an episode where I did the 700 Club a couple times.
It would have been a viral moment. I feel like that would be a viral moment.
That's why I don't know if they kept it on. But it was such a long time. And that's when I was, that's when I had that old Instagram. I shit canned all my social media. So I don't even know if it's out there anymore. But it is something where you just, the truth hurts. Sometimes the truth hurts, man. People want to hear it, but it's got to be said. I don't know if that's the case anymore, but at that time, that's how I felt. All right.
Yeah.
But now I'm out of all that crap. So.
Well, he said it, Elon said it after all that stuff was coming out about like the Chris Cuomo producer with this like whole sex ring and this other. So it was definitely a witty comment. I liked it. So, all right, guys. I guess that's it. Follow us on all social media and thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks, guys. God bless you. Have a great week.
That's all for this episode of the Battleline podcast, but we'll be back on Monday with more American Straight Talk. Until then, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Battleline Podcast and on Twitter at Battleline Pod. To sign up for future Battleline tactical courses, go to www.christantoparanto.net. Believe in yourself, face all challenges head on, and as always, never quit.